Hello and welcome aboard the Battleship Pretension from Cinephile Video in Los Angeles, California. I'm Tyler Smith.
And I'm David Bax.
And thank you for watching. David,
yeah,
how you doing?
I feel like I've just been punched in the ribs and stabbed with a machete. Because today we'll be reviewing Gareth Evans' The Raid Redemption, which is the story of a squad of elite police officers trapped in a building controlled by a cruel crime lord and his seemingly endless army of well-armed black belts.
This film has already gained a reputation for brutal violence, and I'm sure you're saying, like, Tyler, come on. How violent can it be, really? To which I reply, shut up before I slit your throat with a broken light bulb. We'll be joined by actress, comedian, writer Susan Burke in just a moment, but first, The Raid Redemption.
Let's get into it, shall we?
Indeed.
What'd you think?
This doesn't happen very often, but as I was watching the film, I often found myself smiling. It's not a happy film, but there's just so much life and vitality to it.
Right, no one would.
There's a lot of death, but there's life to it as well.
But no one would deny that the movie is exuberant.
Yeah, it takes joy in what it is.
It really is just an action movie.
Yeah.
Pretty much nonstop. There's some dialogue, but even those are informed by the fights. I want to say I like this movie. I will watch this movie again, I'm sure. It's fun to watch, especially if you're a fan of action. And even if you're not, the pure athleticism and choreography of these long extended fight sequences, really impressive. And like I said, worth watching again. But I find it hard to say that this is a good movie. Because I think maybe it almost shoots itself in the foot. I don't know. I was going to say no pun, that wasn't a joke, but I can't remember if someone gets shot in the foot in the movie. They probably do.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
But it almost shoots itself in the foot by taking itself more seriously and having these character moments, and I think that's where my disappointment comes in.
I like what the actors are doing, and they're actually imbuing those characters with something which I would appreciate normally. But when it takes its time and does that, my first instinct is like, what are you doing? What do you think you are? Because I don't think you actually are that thing.
I've liked lesser action movies more because they didn't try to be too much. It wanted me to take it seriously as a story of, not of redemption, despite the subtitle.
We could spend several minutes on that by itself.
But I think it is trying to be a story of loyalty and of loyalty to an idea or a boss or your fellow man. I think those ideas are there, but it doesn't follow through on them.
There were things I wasn't thrilled about with the film, but I don't want to focus on that right now because by and large it was a fun experience for me.
Oh, yeah.
And specifically, I think the thing that I liked the most was the choreography, specifically that martial arts films I don't often enjoy because the choreography feels like choreography. It just feels like everything was worked out way ahead of time. But every once in a while you'll find a film that everything is lightning quick, but it feels organic. It feels like every time a punch lands, which is frequently, it feels like, oh my gosh, somebody didn't plan ahead because that wasn't supposed to happen. It feels very raw, very organic. There's flawless choreography, but it doesn't feel flawless. It feels a little sloppy, which really gives an intensity to everything. And I don't usually like this type of movie, so for me to like it as much as I did, really says something. I highly recommend.
Every time we'd get to a fight like that where I'd think, oh, that's the centerpiece fight of the film. This has to be.
Right.
The next one would top it. It just kept getting more inventive and more brutal and more crazy.
Do you have a favorite fight?
My favorite is probably going to be most people's favorites, which is the 2-on-1 fight in this sort of torture chamber.
I'm inclined to say that, but if I'm honest with myself and David, I have no choice. Cameras are rolling. There is another hallway fight where it's a guy with a small knife and a nightstick against guys with knives and all kinds of weapons. And I like that because, this is going to sound silly, I like that he's utilizing the nightstick. You know, like in a movie where there's like automatic weapons and machetes and these really awesome knives, it's like something as simple as a nightstick, and he kicks ass with it, and I like it a lot.
You know what? Reach out and touch someone.
Exactly. Nobody uses the blunt instrument anymore.
So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with actress, writer, comedian Susan Burke.
All right, we're back. We just reviewed Gareth Evans' The Raid Redemption, which is one of the bloodiest movies in recent memory, and here to talk about more ultra-violent films, we have a guest.
Yes, joining us today is actress, comedian, entertainer extraordinaire, Susan Burke, co-writer of the Sundance hit Smashed. Susan, thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me, guys.
In preparation for our discussion here, we were talking about what we think the most violent film of all time is. I'm going to put out there Starship Troopers.
I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Verhoeven's films are up there in the list, at least in terms of body count.
I like it. It's a really good movie.
I like that movie
It's really
too.
funny.
It is very funny.
I like Paul Verhoeven.
So I put out a theory as to the most violent film. Neither of you have given alternate theories, so it sounds like
you think it's
we're agreed. Starship Troopers, most violent film.
Have you seen? I haven't. Rambo, the most recent Rambo movie?
Yeah.
I saw that. That was extremely violent. It's insanely violent. That might be not the most violent movie, but it's a very violent movie.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to even qualify. Do you go by body count? Do you go by gore?
My instinct, because violence, well, horror movies have a lot of violence, but I feel like horror is a very specific kind of violence. I want to say the most violent, like, action movie. We're talking. This came from The Raid Redemption.
What about creativity in gore?
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? I mean, Starship Troopers has a lot of really fun stuff with like people getting their brains sucked out through their heads.
But that's sort of a cartoony violence. Like I think like Sin City is a super violent movie, but because of the way that it's shot and it's so comic booky that it's easy to like separate when I watch that like reality from that being violent. Like you can see women's heads being mounted on a wall, and that's a horrifying image, but it's like in this crazy world. To me, something like Passion of the Christ or something, that's like very like torture porn, just like of somebody being brutalized for an entire movie.
Are you being facetious when you call it torture porn, or does it actually do something for you?
Not me personally.
What's the sexier movie, Passion of the Christ or Hostel?
That's neither one's very sexy.
I don't think we've got the time for that. That gets to the difference between like violence and gore, because they don't necessarily go together. And the idea of cartoony violence and how that somehow disqualifies it. Because like Michael Bay makes some of the most violent movies ever, but I didn't even think about them.
What about zombie movies? Does it mean less if the person is already dead when they're having their head blown off or their guts torn out?
I think
Susan?
so. Yeah.
I'm hosting this
I mean, because that makes them sort of subhuman, and it's just not as we don't have that connection.
What other Paul Verhoeven movies do you like?
I like RoboCop. I like Showgirls for the it's just so terrible. You can watch it over and over. And I think maybe his first movie, the first movie I know of, Turkish Delight.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Which Rutger Hauer. It's when he's a really young guy, and he basically plays like the worst guy in the world. And it's a romance, but it's not romantic at all. And he's not supposed to be the worst guy in the world. He's supposed to be the hero, but he's just this terrible artist it's great. Watch it.
Susan, I fully expect, with all the buzz from Smashed, that your next buzzworthy screenplay will be incredibly violent. Yeah, as inspired by our conversation today.
Dead Alive, Part 2.
Viewers, you can find us at battleshippretension.com, where you can also listen to our weekly podcast discussions, as well as read movie reviews daily. Susan, where can people find you on the internet?
On Twitter at @SusanBurke, and my website is thatsusanburke.com.
So thank you for joining us,
Thank you.
Susan. Thanks to Cinephile Video for having us today, and thank you all at home for watching.
We'll get you next time.
Bye.
Bye.